Most people picture the gold rush wrong. They imagine a man crawling into a dark mine, hearing the timbers crack, then getting buried under a mountain. And yes, cave-ins killed men. Mines collapsed, shafts flooded, rock fell without warning. But for a lot of 49ers, the real killer was quieter. It was in the water bucket. It was in the bacon barrel. It was in the wet socks they slept in for the third night in a row. The myth is that the gold rush was mostly a fight against rock. The truth is that the average miner was fighting a whole camp that wanted him dead. When gold was found at Sutter's Mill in 1848, men rushed toward California like the ground itself had started printing money. By 1855, hundreds of thousands had come from the United States and around the world. Some crossed the continent by wagon. Some sailed around Cape Horn. Some cut across Panama. Every route had its own way of breaking people before they even touched a pan. Clean water got scarce. Livestock died. Cholera followed the trails. A man could leave home dreaming about nuggets and arrive in California already sick, broke, and half-starved. That is the first lesson old miners learned. The gold field did not start at the river. It started on the way there. New men packed like dreamers. Experienced men packed like pessimists. The dreamer brought extra shirts, a heavy coat, maybe a fancy pan, maybe a pistol he barely knew how to use. The survivor cared about flour staying dry, boots staying together, bacon not spoiling, and water not killing him before the claim did. In a mining camp, food was not just food. Food was time, strength, and math. A man who could not work could not dig. A man who could not dig could not pay for supplies. A man who could not pay for supplies became someone else's cautionary tale. The daily menu in many camps was brutally plain. Beans, bread, beef, bacon, coffee, whatever could be hauled in and sold. Fresh vegetables were expensive or missing. Fruit was rare. Variety was a luxury. And when thousands of hungry men flooded a remote place faster than roads, farms, and stores could support them, prices went crazy. That created the second lesson. In a gold camp, the merchant often had a better claim than the miner. A miner might spend all day pulling flakes from gravel, then hand that money right back for flour, boots, tobacco, tools, or a place to sleep. A shovel could matter more than a nugget. A torn boot could cost more than a bad hand at cards. A sack of flour could decide whether a man stayed another month or gave up. Water was even more dangerous. A clear stream looked safe to a desperate man, but a camp upstream could turn that same water into a trap. Men washed clothes, dumped waste, cleaned tools, butchered animals, and worked gravel near the same water they drank from. Cholera spreads through contaminated food and water, and in the 1800s people did not understand it the way we do now. So the miner's water rule was simple. Never trust a camp because it looks alive. A crowded camp could be more dangerous than an empty canyon. This is where the gold rush stops looking like a treasure story and starts looking like a survival test. The men who lasted paid attention to boring things. Where does the water come from? Who is camped above it? Is the ground dry enough to sleep on? Can the firewood last the night? Are the beans sealed? Are the boots drying? Is the bacon turning? Is the trail passable after rain? Those questions do not look heroic in a painting, but they kept men alive. Then came shelter. A mining camp could appear almost overnight. Canvas tents, brush shelters, rough cabins, wagons, whatever men could throw together. The first shelter did not need to look good. It needed to keep rain off a bedroll and wind off a tired body. A wet blanket was not a small discomfort. Wet bedding meant bad sleep. Bad sleep meant weak hands. Weak hands meant mistakes around axes, fires, rivers, horses, and rock. The old-timer knew that comfort was not softness. Comfort was a tool. Dry socks were a tool. A patched boot was a tool. A raised bed was a tool. A canvas flap angled against the wind was a tool. The man who treated those things like luxuries was usually the man who learned too late. The next trap was work itself. Gold fever made men stupid. They saw another man hit pay dirt and worked past sense. They dug exhausted. They skipped meals. They stood all day in cold water. They gambled away sleep. They believed one more pan, one more shovel, one more hour would change everything. Sometimes it did. More often it made them careless. A tired man steps where he should not. He drinks what he should boil. He swings badly. He forgets to shore a bank. He loses a tool in the river. He ignores a fever because he cannot afford to stop. That is the third lesson. In a gold camp, greed and hope can look exactly the same from the outside. The best miners were not always the strongest. They were the men who had rules before they were desperate. Do not drink below camp if you can avoid it. Do not sleep wet. Do not trust cheap boots. Do not buy every new tool a merchant swears will make you rich. Do not eat spoiled meat because you hate wasting money. Do not work so tired that the river starts making decisions for you. And do not confuse a lucky man with a smart one. That last rule mattered because the gold rush was full of lucky men telling bad advice. A newcomer might watch someone pull gold from a bar and assume the method was genius. But maybe the man had found an unusually rich pocket. Maybe he arrived earlier. Maybe he had local knowledge. Maybe he was about to lose it all at the store, the saloon, or the next claim. The old camps were packed with lessons like that. Some men found gold and still went home broke. Some found little gold and made money selling food, lumber, laundry, transport, or tools. Some survived because they stopped chasing every rumor and learned the boring economy of staying alive. That is what modern people miss about the gold rush. The gold was real, the dream was real, but the camp was a machine that turned ignorance into debt, sickness, and graves. The men who lasted were not just miners. They were water inspectors, food managers, weather watchers, boot repairmen, camp economists, and risk calculators. So the next time someone tells the gold rush like it was one big treasure hunt, remember the real test. The rock could kill you in 1 second, but the camp could kill you slowly, one bad decision at a time. And the old-timer who survived did not just know where to dig. He knew when to stop, what not to drink, what not to buy, and which small discomforts were warnings dressed up as inconvenience. That was the difference between a man who chased gold and a man who came home.